Hey, what is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Hybrid Network and another one of our larger discussions over Hellboy and his new reboot. We've gotten quite a bit of news recently regarding the new film, from a new Trevor Broom and Mila Jovovich as our Blood Queen. The jury's still out on that choice, but that's a video for another time. But most importantly, we got some choice words about the new direction for the project and where it's going to be heading tone-wise. In some choice words from Mike Mignola, Hellboy's creator and the architect for the larger universe presented within the comics, he stated that the new film will be taking some drastically different approaches to the material when compared to the earlier Del Toro films. The last film, Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, was described as something of a light fantasy film, which is hard to dispute given the larger English inspirations for the story and creatures. And while it was great in its own right, it's hard not to notice that it strayed quite a bit from the original source material. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I'm no stickler for accuracy, let me make that perfectly clear, but as a fan of the source material, it's hard not to be a little disappointed that the darker and more melancholy tone of the original series wasn't quite integrated. Hellboy deals with some pretty dark stuff within its pages, so to see the films go for a lighter tone just felt like there was something missing in the grand scheme of things. It was easier to just note that it was someone else's interpretation, as all adaptations really are, but with this new reboot we might get something a lot closer to what Mignola always envisioned. While he'll be taking a backseat in his involvement with this new film, at least compared to how involved he was with the Del Toro projects, he has gone on to say that the new film seems a lot closer to what he originally envisioned for the character. It's darker, much closer to a horror film, which if you've seen any of Neil Marshall's past work, between The Descent and Dog Soldiers, this is pretty on par with the guy's talents. Now, I've seen all manners of reactions to this news. There's interest, there's confusion, and there's still people complaining about no Hellboy 3. But I've also seen some worry over the development that the new reboot is going to be going for a darker tone, aiming for that R rating. I can understand this somewhat. I mean, given that Del Toro's previous work was a little lighter in tone and visuals, but I think we have to understand that this was just the type of movie being made at the time. Now that we've seen that darker looks at stories starring these characters can work, I think it's necessary to explore this route with Hellboy because, well, it's just who he is. His whole world is surrounded with all manners of dark, eldritch horror. The guy's fighting all sorts of doomsday creatures and ancient folklore, which all get pretty twisted upon closer inspection, so I think it only makes sense to model a new reboot on a horror story. Not only to separate it from the previous franchise, but also to introduce a new experience for audiences, in that this is a comic book property where you'll still get the sarcastic hero, but you get legitimate horror elements thrown in. It's nothing incredibly new, sure, but it's definitely a new addition to what many consider to be the superhero genre, and I think this can work to pave the way for more comic book films to experiment with their story and presentation. I love horror stories, and I love Hellboy, so this just seems like a good fit to me, and despite the reservations others have to the new project, I honestly can't wait to see what this reboot can offer. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Hybrid Network for all of the latest updates and discussions on Hellboy and his larger universe. This is Luke signing out.